use AI to understand our customer feedback at scale. So how can you use AI to get the textual data, be that from Trustpilot reviews, Expedia, or surveys you may put out there. So how can we use AI to be more efficient and to be more rapid in terms of how we understand, get context, and understand what our customers think about our businesses and what they think about our services. So before we kick off, a bit about me. Who am I? My name is Lewis Prince. I'm a senior AI engineer at a company called Purple Frog Systems. We're based just outside Wales on the Welsh border, about an hour drive from Birmingham, so quite soundly in the Midlands. I'm a Microsoft AI MVP, so one of 15 or 16 now, I think, within the UK, recognised by Microsoft as a most valuable professional. And this something happens, it's awarded yearly to people in terms of Microsoft recognising people's technical prowess, their understanding and their contribution to the community in their chosen area. So mine being AI services and the tech stack that Microsoft have in terms of how they allow us to use AI. I'm also a certified Microsoft data scientist and an AI engineer associate. I've been working in the data and AI space for about 8 years now across quite a few sectors, but about 4 of those being in the finance sector and life and pensions, doing some quite heavy modeling on financial systems and financial reporting systems. I'd also love for us to connect and put out some resources as well you guys can get access to. So the Purple Frog data website, you'll find on there blogs about anything data adjacent, so visualization, SIS, Fabric, warehousing, as well as stuff that I talk about on AI and ML. And then there's the Data Rhino blog, which is my personal blog, which I deep dive into what's happening in the news, legislation, the ethics of AI, how we use it responsibly, among other things. And then at the bottom, there's an AI roadmap you can get access to. And it's kind of something we've made at Purple Frog, which helps you go from 0 to hero. What are the footsteps in terms of going from no AI to implement that into your business, and giving you a really loose guideline in terms of how to get there. And it's something, if you wanted more context for, we could talk about after the fact, outside of here. So the plan for today, we'll first talk about what natural language processing is, and that's how it's a tool we're going to use to go through and review these and analyze these reviews at a much bigger scale. We'll talk about the Azure AI services, which is kind of where tools we're going to use sit. I'll also go through some adjacent tools to what I'm going to use today, just because I think they're interesting, but also to give you a flavor of what's available and how vast the kind of tool set you can have from Azure and Microsoft is. What is the Language Studio? And that's a specific component of the Azure AI services, which I utilize in the demo later on. So it is quite a demo heavy session later on in terms of we're going to take a business problem and see it through to the end in terms of applying the tools and techniques I talk about today. I'll then go into the Azure services, show you where you can find that, what's available there, how you can interact with it, show you some adjacent tooling, and then we'll go into what keyword extraction is. This is one of the techniques, what the other techniques are, what they are, how we can use them. And then we'll go into the big demo at the end. So there, I'll show you how we can use the Language Studio, how you can get code from that, what it is, and then we'll go on to how we can use the techniques and how the end output looks like. So how we can give a solution and how that solution is useful for the business case we have in mind. So, as I said today, the sessions can be practical, and we'll try to focus on how we can get the maximum insight from text-based sources. In our example today, we're going to be looking at online reviews from Trustpilot, and we're going to feed them through what I call the holy trinity of natural language processing. Again, we will give a definition of what natural language processing is, what a natural language is, and what these individual tools are. So the first being keyword extraction, second, sentiment analysis or sentiment mining, and the third, opinion mining. So for today, we're going to pretend we are a marketing manager / someone who's interesting in the public perception of Lidl. So we're going to put our little hats on and pretend we're in that company. So I've got a load of Trustpilot reviews from Lidl for about mid-December to March. And we're going to pretend and create kind of a dashboard at the end where we can see the insight in terms of how we can get more information than just what is on Trustpilot, and how we can make it much more efficient and drill down into the important information much more quickly. So before we kick off, though, I have a question. How do you already understand your customer's perception of your business? So if we just drop it in the chat, I think there might be a poll as well going in. But how do you already do this? Just out of interest, just spark conversation and see how people are already doing this. Let's give it a minute or so for people to have a go on that. That'll be 5 people so far. The hand up. Put if you've got something to say. Algasami, if I said that correctly, sorry. Just put it in the chat. Type it in the chat. You've got something to say. Okay, we'll come back to the second, Algasami. But I can see most people now, they're going for customer support tickets, their complaints. So, and this is quite common for a lot of companies, where they get that perception from terms of how they interact with their customers on a day-to-day basis in terms of how they're, or survey. Yeah, so I think that comes as well. Customer service at the top. I find a lot of full companies do surveys as well. When I used to work in combination of methods, social media mentions, testimonials, yeah, scraping from a lot of different sites. So I think a lot of companies, like I used to work in a big finance company, they'd send surveys to customers and get stuff like Net Promoter Score. I don't know what it is, but in terms of how they are perceived, they don't actually get anecdotal evidence, kind of what the words are as well, which is kind of what we're going to dive into today. But yeah, great spread of stuff there in terms of how people are looking at stuff, and some people not at all in any structured way. So kind of maybe ad hoc going into Trustpilot, going into Expedia, and just seeing what people are saying about people and about your company. Interesting. Okay, thank you. Great. So the next question, and I'll give you guys a break for a bit, and I'll keep talking more. When I say natural language, what do you think that is? What is a natural language? So again, just drop it in the chat. What you think a natural language is, and then I'll give a definition myself. No GPTs, please. Trying to see, what do you think a natural language is? Give that a minute or two again. Not in code, yeah. Yeah. Someone, Laura, it's a good one. Yeah, I'll give it a couple of seconds. Yeah, as well. So, a natural language is any language which has naturally come to be over the course of human history. So, again, like Annabelle said, and Lucy said as well, everyday spoken languages, French, Spanish, Swedish. Awkwardly, something like Esperanto, if anyone's familiar with that, is a language made. It's supposed to be a universal language of Europe, never really caught on, but because it has all the hallmarks like grammar, etc., of a spoken language like French or Spanish, that also counts. But it discounts stuff like Python, C#. So, like Chantal said, code-based languages don't have that grammar, don't have that syntax. So that's why they don't count as natural languages. And we don't come into what natural language processing is, which is our next step. What is natural language processing? So I like to define artificial intelligence as the replication of human intelligence processes by machines. I say human intelligence processes because it's really hard to define what makes humans intelligent. And what it really is, it's a combination of many things, many different processes. So AI is broken into many different branches and many different processes itself. And natural language processing is allowing computers to understand text and spoken words. This is our branch. We're trying to replicate that part of our intelligence here. And we do natural language processing every day, and we apply it every day in a lot of things, such as translation, text-to-speech capabilities, social media analysis, and text creation. And natural language processing has been about for quite a long time as well. I know for a fact back in the early 2000s, maybe late 1990s, I had text prediction on my Nokia 3410, and that is a form of natural language processing. It's predicting if you spell a word correctly. It's predicting what word next. It's understanding the context of what you're saying. It's having a basic understanding of that spoken written word. And going on to spell check computers, I seem to remember it's always been on my PC when I write stuff. Do that through in the U90s as well. And it really is a context-based thing as well, especially understanding the difference between there, and there. For us English speakers, sometimes I find a lot of people trip on that as well. So for computers to do that, it's quite a cool thing. Your email filtering, again, another form of natural language processing. It understands what makes spam for you. What is the content of that email? What words are used which constitute that email being spam to you? And spam filters are specific to people. They can be specific to companies and then further defined. But yeah, a very specific form of natural language processing there. And Siri and Alexa on your phones, if anyone uses them. Voice to text features. I know a lot of people use this. It's used a lot for apps-based stuff. Probably a massive thing in a disability community in terms of enabling people to communicate. Google Translate is quite a famous example of some natural language processing. I think very widely used. And then search engines as well. They work via understanding what words mean, the importance of words, and then searching them out. So we've set understanding there of what natural language processing is. Hope everyone's happy with that. If we could have some thumbs up in your Windows or some sort of emote, React. So everyone's happy. Before I move on to the next bit. I've seen a couple of thumbs up, so I say that's cool. Sorry, very coffee today. We'll go on to what the Azure AI services are. So you may see these called a couple of different things. The names seem to change 2 or 3 times a year for Microsoft. You'll find a lot of their stuff comes under Microsoft Foundry now, which I'm going to show later on. But at the end, it's always the same thing underneath, no matter what the mask is on top and so the naming is. And what Microsoft call it is just a place where you've got a lot of out-the-box, so ready to use tools and APIs, which are kind of things you can access programmatically that can help you modernize your business processes faster. So it's helping you do cool, smart, intelligent things in a much more rapid way, but also making it much more accessible, which I think is the operative word here. So they can be free to access, they can be paid. I've got examples where they do give free tiers for, say, like the keyword analysis and the sentiment mining stuff. So they have free tiers, and there are some cases where if your use case is low enough, you can get away with using those free tiers as well. So it's worthwhile looking into. But it's usually the paid licenses are aimed at the bigger companies, so medium to larger, where you are breaching those kind of limits in terms of what you can have throughput wise. So all these tools are based on throughput. So it depends how much you put through them, but you can get away with free tiers, definite. Yeah, these tools are kind of off the back of what Microsoft are doing for the last 2 or 3 years in terms of democratizing AI and machine learning, so making it very easy to access. So these tools, while there are code elements to them, it doesn't necessarily have to be. So I'll show later on when I come to them that Microsoft give you the code to get off the floor with this stuff. If you know a bit of Python, with the advent of GPTs, usually you can give the code to a GPT, say I want to use this, here's all my data where it's at, and these GPT systems can help you write that code now. So it's become even more no-code solutions, just the advent of how the tech landscape has changed since these Azure services first came out. So within these Azure AI services, you've got something called Language Studio, and that's what we're going to use today to do what we're going to do. And what the Language Studio is, it's your place to go and get the natural language processing features. So that is our toolbox for natural language processing. Now let's just do stuff like sentiment analysis, translations of documents, summarizing text, and as I said earlier, without the need to write code-ish. It depends if you've got an awkward use case. It depends if you need to kind of shoehorn it into what you want to do. But with GPT, usually it can do a lot of the heavy work for you. And if you know Python already, it's quite straightforward. They do a heavy lifting already in terms of the documentation and the quick start guides Microsoft have in terms of getting you off the road running. And while there are out-of-box solutions for this stuff, the Language Studio and all the other studios allow you to create custom projects and models to work on your data. So, let's say we've got a check here. I think I need to chat to the bullfrog in charge and get Liz to help us. We don't have any data work. There are some valid use cases. Would recommend vibe code your way forward. Let's have a chat afterwards. Nico, if Annabelle can send an email across or send something across, we get a conversation going. We do offer a free 1 hour consultancy, Nico. So we can send that link across to you and you get to meet myself, maybe another the consultants here. And we can certainly have that chat. Definitely. Yeah, we can have more custom stuff here in terms of how we can make versatile text processing and make these tools a lot more bespoke to your use cases as well. So, first demo, have a look at the Azure services. Azure services. So this is where they sit. If everyone could just confirm they can see that on the screen now. The thumbs up, etc. Yeah. So this is where the Language Studio sits. And it's the hub of all these different tool sets again. So these are all the different toolboxes we have for different services we want to do. And I have moved over here. There are some more older services that are still available. And this is the way Microsoft are going to the modernize in their estate. But these still work. So you got like speech services, document intelligence, vision stuff. So trying to find stuff in images. It's just like if you had a CCTV camera or some sort of camera production line, knowing how many units of your product are going across a line at a certain time. So you get throughput of lines. That can be happen through computer vision. I said earlier, they're moving a lot of the stuff to the Foundry. So you'll find a lot of these services already over in Microsoft Foundry. Let me just move this across, which is here. And the Foundry is where you get all the GPT kind of stuff as well. So it's like your GPTs, your Claudes. So stuff I will utilize in this demo as well later on. I have used a bit of GPT magic. But you get these playgrounds where you can do stuff like your language stuff as well. So it's in two places. This will eventually be the home of what it's doing, but they haven't got everything migrated over yet. It's why I'm showing you the older version still. But this is where I'm going to show you that kind of adjacent tech as well, just to get you an idea before we actually zone in on specific demo we do later on. They have stuff like document intelligence. So I thought this could be pretty cool for everyone to see as well. I think it can be quite a useful tool. So the Document Intelligence Studio, this is what the Language Studio looks like inside as well. It gives you tool of stuff to analyze documents. To say, if you work for a company, say a large building company, like let's go blank trying to think of the building company's about now. It's Bovis Homes, one of them. I think Bovis Homes, something like that. You may have a lot of subcontractors. You may get a lot of invoices coming in. And you get a lot of examples here. So this is an example of what the output could be, these sort of things, in terms of getting a review. I always like using my own sort of stuff here. So let's drag this across here. And I've got some examples of an invoice ourselves. So you can drag your own stuff in here. It works the same. So this is an invoice I've got from online. For example, if you're working, the plumber's done some work for your building company, and you can get an invoice, you can get that put into data warehouse, and you can save yourself the manual input, save yourself the analysis over what's going in. But then you can also do cool stuff with identity documents. So say if you worked for a recruitment agency, you had a lot of people coming in, you had to verify their identity, verify their nationality. There's services here which you can plug in the background using code. So this is a identity card in Italy. I won't run that one because I've got another example I'd like to show where I've pulled the ID for a very famous character from Superbad. And we've put McLovin's ID in there. And you can drag stuff from there as well. It's an example of how versatile these studios are and the APIs are. So this is all secure. So these models are in here already trained. When you've got an account as a paid account, they're not using your data in the background to train models. No. So it's very secure here. Go into that context, and it's quite cool now to talk about this because then the next webinar is going to be on AI ethics. I've probably talked this all day. So stuff like GPT, they will use your data for these big models. The stuff like we're showing now, the capabilities already kind of made. So they will not be using your data here, what you upload, train the models, especially on a paid model where for Microsoft, what we're doing here, if you have your data stored in the Microsoft cloud, that's secure, it's held. Microsoft don't access your data like that. They can't get in unless you give them access to go and do that sort of stuff. So when you are using these tools, your data is very secure. Your data never goes off your estate, etc. So yeah, very safe to use. But yeah, cool. I thought I'd share this example because I think the Document Intelligence Studio is probably the next most useful one in terms of Azure AI services for most companies. So something, if you're interested, go along, check it out. I've signed in. This is a free account I'm using to do this sort of stuff. It gives you stuff, results, code, as well as how it's ran that. So when I say earlier, Microsoft to help you out, they give you the code down the right in terms of how to do this. So you know how to utilize the tools. Yeah. Zoom in a lot. So let's go back to the slides then. So what is the next bit? Talk about keyword analysis. What is it? So is the extraction of words that are most used, the words that are most important to a chunk of text. So what we're really trying to do there is take out the essence of a paragraph. And what it usually is when we do this sort of thing is when the keywords are extracted, I usually find my goal is that using those words as they were in a paragraph, you still understand what that paragraph is about. There's a lot of the connecting words have been taken out. And this can be done by the simple approaches, such as detecting the word count in a paragraph. So if it was a review of Beyonce, Beyonce would say a lot, and so that would be a keyword and be extracted. But it also doesn't take account of words we call stop words, so stuff like and, the, thus, then. So it takes a lot of the chaff out, the stuff that keeps the grammar, the grammatical sense of a piece of text, a piece of prose. So what keyword extraction really is taking out the connecting stuff, the stuff we use to make it proper English, so to say. But we can do more complex approaches, like a machine learning approach that learns intuitively what makes a keyword for you and your business. I can work from previous examples. Again, this is what I meant earlier, when you can make it more bespoke to your use case and more bespoke to your business. So I'm quite a visual learner, so I thought I'd give an example of this. And this is a review I've pulled from, it's a Microsoft example, and we'll go through it a bit later on when we talk about the Language Studio. And this is a fictitious review Cotoso Hotel. If anyone's been on any Microsoft training in the past, but no, Cotoso is a fictional company they use for their examples of training. But if we put this through keyword extraction, we get something like this, and it will turn into something like this. So you can see all the key phrases at the top, and you can see what I said earlier, the example of wife, Los Angeles, first time, August 17th, Cotoso Hotel, Hollywood Boulevard. It makes sense to a degree. A lot of the grammar's gone, a lot of the connecting words are gone, but you kind of get the essence of what's been said in that first sentence from those keywords. And that's the real goal of keyword extraction here. Getting the most important things out, what's been said exactly, without all the chaff around that. They're trying to make it at a baseline, more quickly read, more quickly understood. So, keyword extraction. Moving on now to sentiment analysis and opinion mining. So, sentiment analysis is, in essence, the process of trying to get the feeling of a piece of text. So, it's the emotional tone behind a series of words. It's taking a paragraph and finding out what is the emotion, what's the meaning that was trying to be conveyed by the writer at that time. And we're trying to get the attitudes, opinions, emotions expressed. And these are held in words, which is where opinion mining comes in. And it's, while sentiment analysis works on a whole sentence, a whole piece of paragraph of text, we know it's negative or positive or kind of a mixed sentiment there. Opinion mining goes one level deeper and said what in there is making that a positive sentiment, a negative sentiment. What is the target of those sentiments as well? So it gives a much more granular approach. So we know that for a paragraph, that's all positive, that can be made up of a mix of negative and positive sentences and words. We may want to know what opinions have been expressed in that sentence. If it says something's bad, so store is bad, we know bad's been said, that's negative. We know it's about the store. So we'll go again to another example, a visual example. So we've got the sentence, the room was great, but the staff were unfriendly. If we go through sentiment analysis, we could get a negative sentiment for that sentence. Now, this can be confused sometimes because you see the room was great, but the staff were unfriendly. We've got positive and negative things said there, but it gives us a negative sentiment overall. And this is largely due to the maths underneath. I say largely, it is down to the math underneath, where stuff is based on percentage basis. So for that sentence, the technique we're using could think that sentence is 30% positive, but it's 7% negative. So there's a math underneath working out mathematically how strong these words are in terms of what they're expressing. And that's what's happened there. And that's where opinion mining comes in, to break that down. And to get something like this. So this way it breaks down that we have a positive sentiment in there and a negative element to it as well. And we know that that positive element is the opinion great being put on the subject of room. So that's what we can get out of this. So I find it's probably the most useful tool in terms of reviewing text and reviewing people's opinions of businesses. So sentiment analysis and opinion mining, a really great tool. So let's go into that then. Let's show the demo. Let's put our hats on. So let's go back to my kit and we'll have a look at the language studio. So I back up a bit. So again, a very similar interface to what we saw for document intelligence. And we can do a lot of cool things here. So extracting key health information, extracting PII, classifying text, sentiments, understanding what language something's in, summarizing texts. And the first bit here, this is extracting key phrases. And this is the tool set we get. So we're saying the text language is English. You can put your own stuff in there, upload your own documents, or you'd be familiar with this example, the example I gave earlier. Click run, and we get that familiar output from what I said earlier. But sometimes it can be useful to look under the hood and see that's the real output we get. So if anyone more code-based understand, we get a kind of a listed document of all the keywords from that. We can make it more grammatically nice looking. And I also said earlier, there are quick start guides for this sort of stuff. So for this keyword, click on quick start guide. Go in, That's all the kind of stuff we have here. Now we look at some Python documentation. We're on. The one? Yeah, that's the one. This will give you the code. So you can pick a language, whatever you're into. And it'll go through how to create a resource for doing this, as well as the code of how to do it. And it talks you through exactly how you can go along and do this. So again, if the code does trip you up, you can plug this into a GPT, Claude, your Copilots. It can help you out with any error messages. So Microsoft really do try and get you working and get you using this as much as possible to get what you need out of it. And the same can be said for sentiment analysis stuff. Again, we can feed that in, pick an example, run our sentiment analysis, and I'll give you that along with the opinion mining. And again, the JSON, if you're more computationally kind of code-wise savvy, you get that sort of JSON output. And then you can also scroll down and look at quick start guide. And again, choosing what flavor of coding you want to go for, and you can dig into that. So this is the use. This is kind of the process I've used. So really, the quick start guide, it doesn't deviate much from that. So the code I've got in the background to do this, I've done this sort of work. So let's think, going back to that business use case. So marketing manager for Lidl, they've sat down, they want a quick snapshot of the customer perception for Lidl based on the past 3 months. What's been said about the business? So they've come to the AI department and they've said, we haven't got much resource, we haven't got much time. How can we do this quickly? How can we get a holistic review that come the next month, we have to go back and do a lot of number crunching again, a lot of trawling through something that'll update. So we've gone back to them and said, well, we'll apply some keyword processing, some sentiment analysis, some opinion mining, because that'll extract the information you want to see into some key documents. We can also, on top of that, go into our playground, go to our model catalog and get a GPT. So what we're going to do with that GPT is for these reviews, get to summarize, because there may be some reviews which people are writing War and Peace and really want to know the essence of what's been said there. So we do some text summarization, and we can also get that GPT to give us some suggested solutions. So where a customer isn't happy, maybe suggest something which we can put in place to fix that problem for a customer. So that's what we're going to go away and do. So this is how the reviews look on Trustpilot as it is. It can be quite clunky to go through, gives you over the top kind of view. And it's worthwhile noting that for any retail customer, be it Tesco, be it Morrison's, be it Aldi, you're not going on Trustpilot on these review sites to say something nice about your shopping experience most of the time. So it's always worth taking a pinch of salt what scores are on here, because people are they tend to use stuff like Trustpilot as a weapon when they're not happy about experience, and it may not be totally valid. But I find point out if we dig too much into it. So I ran this again the other day, and I think I got down to March. I ran it the 3rd of March for this one here. So from this one down, I've got the reviews for, and we ran our stuff through, and we can get something like this review dashboard here. Okay, so this is where I fed in. So using all those Trustpilot reviews, fed in, did our keyword analysis, did our opinion mining, did our GPT kind of stuff, which is where we're coming over here. And I first want to point out is that first review we saw on the other page. So it is War and Peace. A lot of stuff said there. So we can go straight over to the LLM page where I've put in that summary, the suggested solution stuff. So it's taken what is quite a lot of words been said there, given us the essence. So we know straight away, off a quick chat of that, we know what our customer said in that review. So stuff they're not happy about, managers, emotional stress, personal safety, poor staff service, etc., etc. And then the GPT system we put in place as well is them giving suggested solutions. We can do for a lot of things. So there may be stuff where a customer may question the freshness of fruit. So they may suggest a solution saying, maybe we need to revisit our policies for going and make sure our fruit's fresh, revisit our policies for how fresh fruit has to be when it comes to the company. But hopefully that's quite sorry, just seen this question from Lucy. Could you use it to pick out any summarized customer reviews, such as key themes they mention? How many have said the same thing? So you can to a certain degree. So hopefully I get over that when we go through a couple of examples now. This is how you can pick out similarities customer reviews. I'll probably do it now. So you could do, say, if you want to know all the reviews where Aldi are mentioned as Lidl, you want to see every review where Aldi's been mentioned as well. So you click on that and you can see what opinions have been said there. Also, it filters below. So you know Aldi's been mentioned in all of these reviews. It's pretty easy. We go back to the general analysis. So we can go here and see what rating they said. So all the ones where it's been a 1-star rating, that's on the review side when someone's put that review in. But yeah, all the reviews where Lidl and Aldi have been mentioned on the website, just from clicking that Aldi section on the keywords. So we can drill through similarities by that way, Lucy. Is that kind of what you're asking for? Yeah. So you could do stuff like that with the key phrase stuff. But we could do some interesting stuff as well in terms of we can look at all the positive reviews where they've rated it a 1. So it said something positive in there with 1 star. And this is where the first review comes up. So the 12th of Jan here. A lot of time, it's where it's picked up. And there'll be a nuance where it may be positive, may not be. But I think this one down below is a good example of this. They're not happy they've changed the recipe or how they prepared these roasted salted peanuts. So they said earlier, that was a really good recipe, but you changed it. There's less salt and very little taste now. So they said something positive there. They were really happy before, and they're that annoyed now. They've come on. They're not annoyed that their favourite peanuts have changed. They've come on and said this. So we can dig a bit in. So where they've been really negative, there's a kernel of positivity there. Maybe we need to look at that recipe, and it may be a problem for other customers. So it allows us to dig a bit deeper there and see stuff we may not have looked at. And we can also do the inverse and look at negative reviews where someone's been a bit positive. 17th Jan here. So they've given it a 4-star rating, but there's a bit of negativity there. So overall, a great supermarket, but sad to see less free range and RSPCA approved meat and poultry, less organic produce. So it allows you to drill right in there and see where they've been positive, but they say some negative stuff. And there's not many cases of that. Let's take this one off. It's just one case of that. So it allows you to drill through and see those nuances. And this is an example I gave earlier where it gives that suggested solution for that review to increase the stock of variety of free range and RSP approved meat and poultry. So kind of it's not telling us what to do, but suggesting what could a possible solution that be and get our thoughts going on how we can help solve this customer's problem. Now, there may be use cases where over here we may want to know what people's opinions are upon certain aspects of our business. So we could go on here and we may be very interested in quality. I've gone past, haven't I? Yeah, quality. So we can go into quality there and see all the positive and negative things people have said about the quality in our stores when they've had their reviews. So we see they've spoken about it a handful of times. And see the things they've lauded or good or better downhill. And we can click on these again, go back, and see a review where they've lauded the quality and see what we're saying there. So again, that allows us to drill into what people are saying specifically about certain aspects of a business. So it's not just filtering just about a keyword, but also what people's opinions are based on certain bits and pieces. And then we can also go and get a general overview of just what the 1-star reviews are saying. So what are the most said words for 1 stars? What are the most common opinions stated for 1 stars? That's a little keyword thing as well. So you can get a holistic viewpoint of what are the most commonly said words if no one's familiar with word clouds. The more commonly said things are bigger, these word clouds. Hopefully that's portrayed quite nicely how we can take something like a review site. You can see how this can go over in surveys, or it doesn't have to be online reviews. It could be any form of written communication about your business that you can get en masse. And all this can be automated in the background. So this will update every 3 or 4 weeks, or you can be set to manually go whether you want to, where you click the button, it goes, gets the reviews, does the keyword extraction, does sentiment opinion mining, does the LLM stuff with the GPT to get the summarizations, and updates this dashboard for us. It can be set to update every day. Okay, bye, Nico. It can be set to every day or weekly or monthly. And again, it's getting that speed. So you know when you want to look at these reviews, you sit down, open your dashboard, and it's broken down the way you want it to be broken down. It extracts all the information you want to see, and you can kind of slice and dice it and look at it in many different ways and get the information you want much more easier. So yeah, let's go back to slides just to finish this up then. I think we've gone through there, giving you a demo, giving you analysis of and definitions of what these techniques are, where you can go to use them, how you can use them without having to need to know the code, and what the final product could be. I think my question would be, do you see the value in this process for your business? Do you see value in this sort of thing for your business? I'll also open the floor now for any questions. I suppose in large organizations, it depends what we want to do. I said before, especially in the large finance companies I dealt with, they informally record this stuff, and they did. It wasn't very effective in how they're recording stuff. It'd be blank IDs in terms of you don't know what's been said. It's just put nakedly into a data warehouse, and usually they're only interested in Net Promoter Score. So not what's driving that Net Promoter Score, just what the score is. So I think it's largely not utilized very well, mainly because they don't know how to break it down the way that would be more useful to them. So yeah, it's a way of breaking it down and use a Net Promoter Score. Usually it's not recorded. Usually you find these companies, they'll pay 3 or 4 analysts at the bottom to go through stuff like Trustpilot, social media themselves, and create a report based on what they're seeing there. So very manual, very time consuming and expensive. So that's usually what happens in these large companies. It gets broken down very manually. They don't do much of the data apart from scratch the top layer. Once you have data in a dashboard, can you export it to add into a report? Add to a report. Does it mean like an Excel report? So with stuff like with Power BI, you can get it to download. You can, once you've got the data in a certain way, you can right click and export it. So it'll come out in an Excel document format. So you can definitely get it, and you can copy and paste out of these things as well. So yes, once you've done that kind of slicing and dicing, you can pull it out and put it wherever you want. What is the forward use case for this? If I went to this in my org, I would need a business use case. What's it saving time for and driving value? So Thomas, it is a lot of time saving as opposed to manually going through your Trustpilot reviews, analyzing different words, pulling different words out, connecting different themes in your business. It's automating. So as I said earlier, in large businesses, when they do this sort of thing, they'll put 3 or 4 analysts to go through social medias, to go through the Trustpilots, and kind of extract stuff manually. And you're not getting human error here. You're not getting the error of interpretation for stuff. So I would say the business case is getting a more holistic understanding of your business at a much larger scale is possible in an automated way, in a dependable way, a more accessible way, and stuff that you customize how you want to see it as well. And it can happen on a weekly basis. So you can refresh that daily if you want to. costs would go up in terms of using the stuff in the background, the services. Does that make sense, Thomas? Does that sound like a good starter for you to go over a use case? If not, again, I think we mentioned it earlier, we can go offline and have a chat. I can give you an hour of my time, no obligations, to go into a bit more detail and make it a bit more spoke and help you get that use case across to you. If you are interested, again, drop me an email and I can pop you a meeting link afterwards. What kind of action you look for? I know views can have tones that aren't exactly intention. So yeah, I think you've highlighted a caveat of what this is. So as the models are getting better, stuff like sarcasm is picked up, but it can get tripped up by it. So there'll be some cases where you look for a positive sentiment, but it was sarcasm. But you'll find it's hard to understand tone from text anyway. So that's a lot of people. I know certainly for me, when I have customer conversations, we try not to have email-based conversations. We try to talk. Okay, it's much easier to get a perception of people's tones, people's objectives of talking, and how they're putting words across. So much like it's hard to understand tone of an email, maybe sometimes it may come across a bit show office. It may come across a bit blunt, when really it wasn't meant to be. And if that had been a conversation, it would have been okay. So there are cases where it may trip up and stuff like that. Oh, in terms of costs, so usually for the GPT stuff, it works on tokens. So a token is roughly a word. So you're paying a couple of pence per word put into there to process. If you're going for the paid licenses, for the free licenses, you usually get maybe 40 to 50,000 tokens a month for free, and it works this token basis. So the prices do change now and again, but it's around that a couple of pence per token kind of area. So it depends on your throughput. Okay, and I will end off here and show my next slide, which is the next webinar. So 14th of May, hidden risks of AI, how to avoid them. What this is I'll be chatting about how to use AI responsibly, how you can approach ethics, how you can approach not biasing people by your implementation of AI. So really a hot topic in the industry at the moment, a hot topic in data in general. And it's a talk I'm going to be doing at quite a big conference next month. Yeah, there will be a webinar for this one. We'll always do a webinar, Lucy, and we'll send you afterwards. But yeah, I'll be doing this at quite a big European conference next month. So it's one of my best talks. So you are getting an insight to something a lot of people are paying money for next month, and I'm going to give it to you the month afterwards. So hopefully a really good deep dive, a good conversation, and a really good insight into how you can implement AI in the best way, which is fair to your customers, it's fair to you, and you're not breaching any kind of GDPR laws by doing what you're doing. You're not exposing your data elsewhere. That'll be the whole kind of point of that talk when we get down to it. So the link is there for Eventbrite. I'll be sharing it afterwards on our socials. So I do hope you'll be there. But yes, if you don't, drop us a message and we'll be sure to send the webinar recording after the fact. Just a reminder of all the QR codes to connect with me and look at the frog blogs and that useful documentation you can have. Okay,